Good afternoon, students. So we are going to the chapter 2 in disaster. So this topic is on management of natural disaster. Okay. So first, before we go into the management of natural disaster, management means how to um, manage it, how to prevent it, and once it has occurred, what are the other things that as a human being we have to do to take care of the situation. So that is management of natural disasters. So before we go into this topic, I'll just talk about a few definitions so that you understand what is this topic all about. Preparedness. Okay. Simple way of explaining. Before an exam, what do? You prepare for the exam. Same way, before the natural disaster, you prepare for the natural disaster. That is, you take precautions, you make sure all the necessary things are ready. How do you prepare for the exam? You make sure the pen is there, you buy scale, you buy paper, you make sure that all the things that you have to take to the exam is ready. So same way, before a natural disaster, you make sure that there is enough equipment, supplies, then there are people who are involved, then health system is working properly, warning system is there. So all this is called preparedness. Then reconstruction, that is, once the damage has been done because of a disaster, then you uh, construct the damaged things again. That is reconstruction. Rehabilitation is for the people. You restore the people. So whenever there is a natural disaster, there are people who are affected, so they have to be rehabilitated. Then resilience is the adaptability or the capacity to recover. Whenever you are suffering because of a natural disaster, you overcome the problems that has been caused and you go back to your normal life. That is resilience. Then response. So in case there is a natural disaster, what do you do after that as a disaster management authority, or as individuals or health workers? What do? That is the response. What we need to do. Then risk is the expected loss. For example, what is the risk of a flood affecting Vellore? That means, suppose a flood comes to Vellore, what are the things that will get damaged? So first thing we will do is, what are the places where will the flood come? The flood is likely to come in the Pala river. So we'll go near Pala and see what are the things near to the Pala. How many people are living there? What are the buildings there? So they are at risk first. Then if it is a big flood, then other areas, which is the low lying area where the water can be stagnant for a long time. So this way of assessment is called risk assessment. You are checking which are the people at risk, which are the structures or buildings at risk. So that is risk assessment. Then susceptibility. Susceptibility means, who are the people who are having maximum risk? They are called susceptible people. Okay, then next word is vulnerability. Vulnerability means the degree or loss from the damage. So who is more at chance of getting damage or loss? So in the society, for example, the poor people. Even in the coronavirus, you know that who was at the maximum vulnerable people? The migrant people. They had to go back walking to their native place, so they are vulnerable people. So like that, we have to see who are the vulnerable people in every disaster. Okay, so now let us see the factors that increase risk due to disaster. Okay, suppose a disaster happens, what are the factors that will increase the risk? Okay, so the first thing is poverty. Any disaster, who are the people who are maximum affected? It will be the poor people, because the rich people, they will either they would have gone from that area before the disaster struck, or they will try to use their influence to go away from that area. Okay, I'm not saying that 100% rich people will escape disaster, no, but poor people are more at risk, and they will be the people, poor people will be the ones who will suffer more. Okay, so poverty is one factor that increases risk due to disaster. Then the population growth. For example, coronavirus, which are the places it is affecting much more? Chennai city, Mumbai city, because these are the places where the population is very thick, very high. So, and these are the places where there are a lot of migrants. So because of the population growth, the disaster risk is higher. Then rapid urbanization, the same point. because of the city urbanization. So cities like Chennai and Mumbai are the places where the uh, coronavirus affects. Same way, flood also, if you see last few years, you would see that Chennai is affected by floods, Mumbai is affected by floods. Almost every year Mumbai is affected by floods. So this is because of rapid building of buildings, that is called urbanization. So this leads to a lot of human made disasters. Some of the floods are caused by human disasters. The next thing is that transition and cultural practices. For example, some of our culture may change over time, and when our culture changes, that can lead to problems which actually finally end up in disasters. Okay, environmental degradation, for example, cutting down of trees, then use of excessive plastic, and unwanted uh, things, doing like a lot of pollution, air pollution, water pollution. All these can lead to environmental degradation, which leads to increased risk during disaster. Then lack of awareness and information. Suppose we do not provide enough information on do not give awareness to the people, that can lead to increased risk. For example, during coronavirus, the government did a good job of telling everybody to wear masks, to have social distancing, but people, if they followed it, they would be safe. Some of them did not follow, that leads to diseases and risks. Same way, war is one of the common factors which will worsen the condition during a disaster. So let us see now the natural disasters and mitigation efforts. Mitigation means reducing the effects. Okay, so disaster prevention, mitigation and preparedness is better than disaster response. It's a very important line. Okay, just like we say preventing a disease is better than the cure, here disaster prevention, mitigation and preparation is much better than disaster response. So instead of after a disaster comes, you going and saving the people and trying to save the people, being prepared for it is much better, and it will achieve your goal. So the 10th 5-year plan from 2002 to 2007 made sure that this mitigation is given a lot of importance. Okay, so similarly, the 12th Finance Commission also, a disaster mitigation fund was created. So disaster mitigation fund means it's a collection of money. The government is putting money every year so that it can be used to help the people who are suffering from disaster. Okay, so the government of India has started building so many things, like we'll go in detail, but here there are two examples. Retrofitting of buildings, that I'm going to explain little later. It means you are rebuilding the old buildings. Then coastal shelter tree plantation, that means on the sea coast you are planting a lot of trees, because that will protect the cyclone from hitting the city. So, and it will also prevent the water from getting into the city, because a lot of trees will keep the soil firm and it will prevent floods. So these are some of the things that the government of India is doing to reduce the disasters. Okay, we can divide the strategies into two: structural strategies, non-structural strategies. Structural strategies means for the buildings, what are we doing? Non-structural strategies for without the other than buildings, what are the other things we do? Okay, to reduce the flood, what are we doing? We are building dams, we are building barrages. Okay, barrages means preventive building in the river. Okay, so these are the things that the government is doing, building to prevent flood. Same way, to reduce the earthquake risk, what we are doing is, there is Bureau of Indian Standard. Okay, that is standard building. For example, if you say your notebook is 192 pages and the notebook has 100 pages, how will you feel? You will feel that the person selling you the notebook has cheated you. Same way, building should be according to the standards, Indian standards. That is, the government has laid down certain standards according to which every building has to be built. This will prevent the building from getting damaged in case of an earthquake. Okay, so this reduces the risk of earthquake. This is called earthquake risk mitigation. Okay. Then the government has also constituted hazard safety cells in the states. Every state, we already studied in the previous chapter that the national disaster management authority is there, then a state disaster management authority, then a district disaster management authority. Same way, there are hazard safety cells. Hazard means danger. So safety cells against the danger is created in every state, so that it helps the people during times of disaster. Okay. Retrofitting of lifeline buildings. The main buildings, what are the lifeline buildings? Means the government buildings which are very important during times of natural disasters. What are they? The civil aviation or airport buildings. Okay. Railway buildings, telecommunication, all your phone towers, government telecommunication buildings. Okay. Power lines, because electricity is very important during times of crisis. Health and family welfare buildings, that is hospitals and related buildings. So these are the lifeline buildings. They are very, very important during times of disaster. So these buildings are given priority first. They are retrofitted, means even though they have already been built, they are repaired and renovated so that they follow the BIS standards, and they can withstand any amount of force in spite of natural disasters. Okay, hope you understood this. Then the mainstreaming mitigation in rural development schemes. The government has a lot of rural development schemes. Indira Awas Yojana, Sampurna Gram Rozgar Yojana. So these are all rural buildings, okay, which are built for the people. So these buildings are also constructed in such a way that they are disaster resistant. Whether it is a flood, cyclone or earthquake, it does not fall down. So that way it is safe. Then the National Cyclone Mitigation Project has been started, because India is prone to a lot of cyclones. We'll study cyclone in detail. So this project helps to protect the people from damage caused by cyclone. The effect has been seen already, because number of people who die and damage is being reduced every year. Okay. Then landslide. Landslide means in a hilly area when the land just falls down. Okay, some of the mud and trees and everything fall down because of loose soil. That is called landslide. So there are so many methods in which this landslide is prevented. So that these are the structural methods. The non-structural methods or strategies. How do we prevent disasters, or how do we mitigate disasters using non-structural strategies? Human resource development. What is human resource development? Education, training. So we already studied there is a disaster management training place. So the Disaster Center for Disaster Management at the national level, so they take up different training modules. So if you see on the internet, there are so many books related to prevention of disasters in terms of flooding, the prevention of or mitigation of cyclone disasters. So regarding every disaster, there is training modules available on the internet. So this training is given to all the people who are involved in the disaster management. So this is human resource development. The people are educated. The people who are involved in disaster mitigation are educated in methods of preventing and taking care of people who are suffering from disasters. Then the capacity building of engineers and architects. See, in the retrofitting of buildings and in the building of new buildings which have to be earthquake resistant and disaster resistant. Who are the people who will be building all these buildings? Who will be building the dams? All of them will be engineers and architects. So these are the people who will be involved in the building or planning. So they are given a lot of training in mitigation, how to build buildings which are earthquake resistant, avalanche resistant, which are cyclone resistant. So suppose if they build a big building and put a big tower on top of the building, and suppose a tower falls down, then people will get injured or die. So there are ways in which they are given training so that they know how to build a building. Then not only that, training of rural masons. Who are rural masons? Rural masons means all the masonry, okay, who are living in states, in the villages. So they are given training, okay, because they are the people who build a lot of the public buildings. So they are also given training at regular intervals so that they build good buildings and safe buildings. Then next is important, information, education, communication. So the home ministry has a IEC tool, okay, which has got information, education and communication about all the disasters. For example, it is present even in the school curriculum. Even the CBSE educational system, they have a lot of things about disaster. So information is available so that every child who goes through the school system, they understand about the disasters and how to take care of disaster. For example, I remember studying in school that when an earthquake happens, you have to go under the desk, or you have to stand under the either you first thing is you have to run out. If you are not able to run out, at least go under the bed or go under the table to protect your head. So these are the ways in which the information, education, communication is done by the government to protect the people in case of disaster. So in conclusion, we can say disaster mitigation is a complex process. It's a very difficult process. It's not easy because you cannot 100% save everybody, and 100% you cannot tell information about every disaster. Even if you teach everything, there will be a new thing coming. For example, did anyone think of coronavirus till it affected us? We have done so much of information campaign, disaster preparation, everything for earthquake, cyclone, like that. Okay, in spite of all that, suddenly in 2006 tsunami came. Nobody expected that. Then a lot of people died. Then we started taking care for tsunami. We have a good system to predict tsunamis and how to protect people from tsunamis. And suddenly this coronavirus came. So it is a complex process. You do not know what will happen at what time. So we have to be ready for everything with maximum precautions. So that will help us to reduce the risk, okay. And we have to use this structured method, buildings, and how do we build buildings to prevent disaster caused by earthquake, cyclone or flood. And non-structured method, so that we educate people, educate the rural people, educate the people who are involved in building the buildings and other people, so that they know how to build buildings and other structures that will protect the people, and what to do in case a disaster happens. That is human resource development. So structure and non-structured preparation for natural disasters is very important. Okay, so hope you understood this. We'll see the remaining things in the next class.